Hey everyone, welcome back to Noir Frame. And today we're diving into one of the most legendary prison break stories in American history, straight out of the famous Alcatraz Island. And no, this isn't a movie plot. This really happened. In fact, it was so cinematic that Hollywood just couldn't resist turning it into multiple films and shows. Alcatraz, or The Rock, as it's better known, was originally called Alcatraz Island, thanks to its notorious federal prison housing America's worst of the worst. It earned the nickname Devil's Island. It sits right in the middle of San Francisco Bay, about the size of 10 football fields, not too far from the city, just a few kilometers off the coast. Sounds close enough to swim, right? Well, no, you'll see why. Back in 1866, the US military set up a prison on this island. At first, there weren't even real cells, just a dark, damp basement. Military prisoners were literally locked away underground with no sunlight. Over time, the government decided to build real prison structures on the surface. And then came the 1930s, when America's gangster era kicked in hard. The 1930s were like a golden age for America's crime. Think Al Capone, machine guns, and bootleggers with better business models than startups today. So the government said, you know what? Let's make that hellhole official. In 1933, the military prison became a federal prison, designed to house the worst criminals and stop them from escaping again. Alcatraz was designed like a fortress, not just with walls and guards, but geography itself. Sure, the prison was close to San Francisco. Between you and freedom, there was freezing water, brutal currents, and yeah, sharks. Even if you broke out of your cell, you'd still need to survive the bay, which was basically a natural security system. Even with ice cold water, deadly currents, and armed guards everywhere, people still try to break out. Between 1933, when Alcatraz became a federal prison, and 1962, there were 13 escape attempts. Here's how those went: 23 inmates were caught alive, 6 were shot dead, 2 drowned, and 2 just vanished. Not exactly a high success rate. Actually, a zero success rate. No one had ever made it out until 1962. That year, something changed. 4 men hatched a plan. 3 of them would vanish into the night, and suddenly, what was supposed to be impossible no longer looked so impossible. So, who were these guys? Let's rewind to 1962. Inside the prison, 4 inmates started plotting something bold. First, there were the Anglin brothers, John 32 and Clarence 31. These two had been robbing banks, failed to play nice in Atlanta prison, and were shipped off to Alcatraz for their repeated escape attempts. Then there was Frank Morris, 36, orphan and 11, high IQ but somehow ended up with a rap sheet that included armed robbery and drug possession. And finally, Alan West, 33, a car thief from New York who already tried and failed to escape from a Florida prison. Basically, this was the prison break Avengers. If the Avengers were broke, desperate, and extremely resourceful. So, how did this unlikely crew even come together? Apparently, Weston Morris had started dreaming up an escape plan back in 1960. Soon after, the Anglin brothers asked to join, and honestly, the more hands, the better. But there was a logistical problem. Their cells were scattered in different parts of the prison. So what did they do? They politely requested to be moved closer together. Now in any prison worth its salt, let alone the most secure in America, that's a red flag the size of Texas. But not Alcatraz. The warden said, sure, why not? And moved them all to adjacent cells in B block, because apparently hubris is stronger than protocol. Once they were neighbors, the real work began. Each of their cells had a vent behind the sink, roughly 9 inches by 5 inches. That tiny hole became their portal to freedom. They started chipping away at the wall with spoons, coins, even fingernail clippers. Basically, the prison version of a Home Depot run. They used cardboard to cover the holes, hid the entrance with fake walls, and set musical instruments in front to block any curious glances. One of the most ingenious parts, they hacked a vacuum cleaner motor to make an electric drill. And the sound? Easily masked by the 1 hour music hour. Each night, the prison's daily jam session where inmates could play harmonicas, accordions, guitars. That hour wasn't just music, it was their construction time. After a month of careful drilling and some serious musical covers for the noise, they finally broke through. Behind the wall, a narrow 3 foot wide service corridor full of junk, old pipes, abandoned equipment, no guards inside. Jackpot! This hidden hallway led to the top of B block. From there, they could access the prison roof. It became their off the books workshop, a place to gather, whisper, plan, and build a ticket out of Alcatraz. At this point, it wasn't just about digging holes. They had to fake entire humans. Every night, guards checked cells. If the beds looked empty, game over. So these guys made fake heads out of soap, toothpaste, toilet paper, and concrete. They even stole the hair from the prison barber shop. That's dedication. From a distance, it looked like someone was sleeping peacefully. Up close, it looked like someone desperately wanted guards to think they were sleeping peacefully. Everything was ready. On the night of June 11, 1962, lights out at 9:30 p.m. The men put their fake hats on the pillows, stuffed their blankets to look like bodies, and got ready to disappear. One by one, they crawled through the holes. Except one didn't make it. Alan West, the fourth guy, yeah, turns out he had sealed his escape all too well earlier that week. He was paranoid. The fake wall would get discovered and reinforced it with cement. Now it was too small to crawl through, and the cement had hardened. While he tried to chip his way back out, the others had no choice. Leave now or lose the shot forever. So they left him behind. West would later spill every detail to the authorities, which is honestly the most guy left behind in the East thing you could do. Meanwhile, back in the cells, the guards were doing their rounds. They came by, called out names, peeked in the cells, and saw someone sleeping. So, no red flags. Why would there be? This is Alcatraz. Nobody escaped, right? So the guards moved on. That bought the trio some precious time to get out of their cells, climb up through the corridor, and reach the rooftop. Other inmates later said they heard noises on the roof that night, around 10:30 p.m. But again, it's prison. Noises happen. By the time anyone realized what had really happened, they were long gone. Roof? Check. Now what? They slid down a vent pipe, made it to the ground, and reached the final boss, the frigid waters of San Francisco Bay. But these weren't just any escapades, these guys had prepared. Earlier, they had swiped over 50 raincoats from the prison supply, glued them together using heat and steam, and turned them into an inflatable raft. The bellows of an accordion became their air pump. Accordion-powered escape. Let this sink in. They used wood scraps from the accordion to make pedals. That night, sometime between 10:30 p.m. and sunrise, they pushed off into the cold, black water and disappeared. At 7 a.m. the next morning, guards did their usual rounds. They reached the cells of the escapees and noticed something was off. Still no movement, still the same exact sleeping position. They knocked, called out names. Nothing. One guard finally unlocked the door, stepped in, and gave the sleeping inmate a little nudge. And the head rolled off the pillow. Literally. That's when the panic button was slammed. Alcatraz, the unescapable prison, had just been escaped. Sirens screamed, doors slammed, radios cracked. Within minutes, a full-blown manhunt was launched across land, sea, and air. The media went into full frenzy mode. Newspapers screamed, "Escape from Alcatraz" in bold letters. Radio and TV reports ran nonstop. Everyone in America suddenly became obsessed with three missing criminals. It was the kind of PR that no prison wants, but every Hollywood scriptwriter dreams of. And yeah, that's exactly why decades later, Clint Eastwood would play this out in a movie. Even the FBI jumped in. The escape embarrassed them too. This was supposed to be the most secure prison in the country, so they launched what would become one of the longest manhunts in FBI history. And spoiler, they never found them. Investigators began to think maybe they didn't do this alone. There were whispers of someone helping them, maybe from the outside. Maybe they made it to nearby Angel Islands and then to San Francisco's Pier 13. One theory, Clarence Anglin's girlfriend was waiting with the gateway vehicle. Very Bonnie and Clyde core. They searched everything. They found scraps of rubber near the shoreline and a homemade paddle washed up. But no bodies, no raft, no sign of drowning. The result? The FBI could only label the three men as missing, not dead. To this day, they've never changed that status. Years passed, but the mystery never died. The FBI used age progression software to simulate what the escapees might look like as older men. They hoped someone, somewhere, might recognize them. And nothing. Leads came in over the decades. Blurry photos, anonymous letters, alleged sightings in Brazil or Florida. But none could be confirmed. It became one of America's favorite conspiracy theories. Did they die at sea, or did they actually get away with it? And here's the twist ending. Less than a year after the escape, the US government shut down Alcatraz. No official reason given, no press conference, just closed. Some say it was too expensive to maintain, others say the embarrassment was too great. Either way, the most unbreakable prison in America was broken, not by force, but by creativity, patience, and a few stolen raincoats. Today, Alcatraz is a tourist trap, complete with gift shop and audio tours. You can walk the same prison blocks the Anglin brothers and Morris once did. You can stand in their cells, stare at the vent holes, and wonder, did they really make it? Are they sipping margaritas on some beach somewhere? Or did they sink beneath those freezing waves that night? Honestly, only they know, and they're not talking. And that's it for today. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. We've got more true crime tales, hists, and high stakes mysteries coming your way right here on Noir Frame. Until next time, stay sharp, stay curious, and remember the best stories aren't always fiction. See you on the next one. Bye. And the ending part, please. The one that I send you.